Welcome back. These have been an interesting few months at the Sarasota School Board. The Parkland massacre sent school boards throughout the state scrambling to make schools safer for students and teachers. But in Sarasota, that process devolved into nasty text messages and name-calling, derision. There are some fundamental philosophical differences on the school board, mostly between Democrats and Republicans, although technically this is a nonpartisan race. There are few things more important than the education of our kids. There are 3 seats up for grabs next month, so we are going to host debates for each of them. Tonight, District 4, we welcome incumbent Shirley Brown and challenger Karen Rose. Welcome to you both. And we first want to give you both a chance to give an opening statement. And Shirley, you are the incumbent, so take it away.
Well, I've been serving on the school board since 2006. I came in on 2006 because they were having some problems of turnovers of superintendents, and I came on to help bring some stability to the district, which I did. And I'm glad to see that our district is performing so well. This last group of tests that we had, we came out with 4 percentage points higher than we were. We're an A-rated district, solidly A-rated, just 2 points behind the #1 district. And that is my goal. My goal is to make us the #1 district in the state of Florida. And I will continue to advocate that, and I will continue to advocate for our public schools.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan. I have 28 years as a professional educator serving our children and our families, as a teacher, as a principal, most recently executive director of middle schools. I am endorsed by the Sarasota Teachers Classified Association, the Republican Party, former Superintendent Wilma Hamilton, and most recently the Sarasota Manatee Realtors Association. I hold a master's degree in education, and I am certified in the state in leadership and administration. I will be a force in safety of our schools, focusing in on the mental health issues overwhelming our schools, rebuilding relationships with our local law enforcement, continuing to impact the performance of our schools. As leader of middle schools, I grew our middle schools. 4 middle schools grew in grade. We have no C's. I moved middle school acceleration from a ranking of 15th in the state to 3rd, and built college and career programs in each one of our middle schools. And the budget is very important in that process, going back to being a support to our students.
Okay. Our conversation on the Sarasota School Board will continue in just a few minutes. Welcome back. There are 3 seats up for grabs next month on the Sarasota School Board. We're going to host debates for each of them. Tonight, District 4, we welcome incumbent Shirley Brown and challenger Karen Rose. All elections are about whether or not the incumbent should be rehired and whether or should be fired. So Shirley, let me start by asking you the essential reason that you would like voters to rehire you on the school board.
Well, I think for the time that I've been on the school board, we've been an A school. I mean, for all of that time, and it's even more solid now. But I think I've got the legislative experience to know. I think one of the most important jobs we do on the school board is to advocate for our public schools in Tallahassee, because, you know, what Tallahassee does is what we have to implement oftentimes. And we need to see when they're trying to play a shell game with us. You know, like what they did with the funding this year. I mean, they told everybody they're giving us all this money, but in return, the base student allocation only increased by 47 cents. You have to have an understanding of how the budget works to see how they do that. And, you know, and as they're, you know, passing these bills at the last minute, and you have to understand how it's going to affect you, and to be able to have those relationships, not just with the legislators, but also the staff in Tallahassee, and with the Florida School Boards Association, to speak with a solid voice for public schools, and I've been doing that.
Karen, why should voters fire Shirley and hire you?
Well, Alan, I have 28 years of working directly with children, being a child advocate, working with families firsthand, and our teachers and our administrators. I have a track record of developing A+ schools, working in schools that if there's a critical incident, and building teams, leading teams, collaborative teams, bringing cohesiveness, listening to our teachers, being a support to teachers. I'm certainly not a career politician. My platform isn't a legislative platform. It is the real issues that our teachers are facing every day, the safety that our parents are concerned about when their children go to school.
One of those real issues is is the safety of our schools, especially after what happened in Parkland. And I'm curious about what you both think about the Guardian program that was part of the state legislature's response to Parkland. So Karen, let me start with you. The
Sure.
Guardian program, we have not utilized that or chose to utilize that in Sarasota, but would you be in favor of arming school employees, not police officers, to protect our children and staff?
Well, Alan, let me tell you what I'm in favor of. With 14 years of direct partnership and being a partner and leading a critical incident in my school or overseeing all 8 middle schools, I'm a strong advocate to build our relationship with our local law enforcement. Their level of expertise, training, and talent is unsurpassed, and I speak to that firsthand. This is a community that deserves the best. Our children deserve the best, and I will continue to be an advocate to build that.
But let me follow up.
Sure.
I don't know if you answered the question. Are
Sure.
you for armed guardians in our school from trained existing staff?
I'm going to follow up and I'm going to answer you directly and frankly. I am for partnering with local law enforcement and vetting our plan with them hand in hand every step of the way. If that's the best we can do in our partnership that's existed throughout my career, I would look to the skills and talent of the local law enforcement to come to that conclusion together with them.
Sure.
Well-
I'm gonna let you respond. We only have a couple seconds left, so why don't you start and then we'll carry it on to the next.
Well, I know Guardians was something that the sheriff was asking to do, and I think he's putting them in some of our charter schools. But Guardians are not law enforcement personnel, and they can be school employees, not teachers. No, well, they can be a teacher if they do something other than just teaching. So I am not for arming our teachers with guns. I'm for arming them with the tools they need to educate our students, not to guard our students.
Well, of course, I'm not for arming teachers either.
We have to take a quick
Sure.
break to pay the bills. We're just getting warmed up. Our conversation on the Sarasota School Board raised for District 4 will continue after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. There are 3 seats up for grabs on the Sarasota School Board next month, so we're going to host debates for each of them tonight. District 4, we welcome incumbent Shirley Brown and challenger Karen Rose. And Shirley, I said that I was going to give you an opportunity to respond. We're talking about the Guardian program. What were your final thoughts on that?
Well, Karen talked about how she felt about the police officers and the partnerships. You know, this is an unfunded mandate from, well, partially funded mandate from the state. You know, they came up with another simple solution to a complex problem. They said we needed to put, you know, to make our kids safe, we needed to put, you know, a police officer in every schools. I was surprised when our sheriff came back with the contract that said he would no longer share the cost with us. But more importantly was that basically there were going to be cops in schools, or you know, they weren't going to be the same partners that we had, the resource officers that would work with the kids and that would have these trusting relationships, because that's what's important. We need to have, when the students see something, they say something. And not only do they say something, but we have something to follow up with when they do. I would have liked to have continued the same partnership we have, and we will for the next year. But in our elementary schools, we've decided to start with our own resource officers.
In all fairness, Alan, I do need to add that I have to ask the question, is the internal police force a funded piece? Where are those funds coming from, and where do they end? It's a heavy lift. When you look at the amount of training, if you attended the meeting with a local sheriff and the police
Well, the
chiefs,
budget shows
let
where
me
the funding
finish,
is coming from.
Shirley,
The
please.
funding
If you
shows.
look at it, where does that end with the current funding? That is unanswered at this point. And as far as the contract goes with the Sheriff's Department and the SROs, I experienced that contract firsthand for 14 years plus 3 additional, and I didn't see any differences in there.
I want to get a lot in the section. So
There
Karen,
were major
Sure.
differences between last year and this year.
But let
Major
me-
differences.
Karen, let me ask you this
Sure.
question. There was, I mean, this really broke down in ways that that nobody was really happy with in terms of the arguments between the school board and the sheriff and the superintendent. The cost of providing the SROs was split evenly up until this year when the sheriff tried to make the case that the school board should, and the school department should bear the entire cost, and now it's 80-20.
Sure.
What did you think about what he did?
I can tell you what I do know, and I'm certainly not going to speak for the sheriff. I have the utmost respect for him, and that's a result of the working relationship for 14 plus years. I'm going to look to Superintendent Lori White, and as a school-based principal for those 14 years, every year there was deliberation on the school resource officers, and there was question as to whether we would still have them, how they would be funded, so forth and so on. And I can tell you every year it landed exactly where it should and what this community deserves.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Sure.
I'm asking you, what did you think about the sheriff's move to get the school board to pay a larger piece of the pie?
I think that if the rest of the municipalities were paying a different price, that's certainly a dialogue that needed to transpire, not just with our superintendent, but with the school board who approves the budget. I think that dialogue and communication is key, and I think that that has been a weakness of our officials, and that with appropriate communication that it could have been resolved, and it will be, because I will be rebuilding that communication.
You know, it concerns me a little bit that, you know, my opponent talks about, you know, her experience and how she knows what to do and what she would have done. But in reality, I mean, less than 2 weeks after Parkland, when it was all hands on deck, if there was experience to be shared, it should have been done then. What she did instead was walked off the job, quit without giving any warning.
That is not true. That is a false statement.
Well,
and the only
record
reason
shows, I don't want to argue
it's not an argument. The only reason that that narrative could exist, Ms. Brown, is because you won't have dialogue with me about the real issues that are facing our families and our children.
Right,
safety, mental health.
Hold on one second. I want to give you a chance to describe why you left your position at that point, and then let's move on to other educational issues.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Technically, I was retired in November of 2013, and I made my retirement official through our Human Resources Department with a week's worth of meetings. I was told by the Human Resources official that I was following every procedure and every policy, and I gave 2.5 weeks notice.
All right, I want to get a couple of things in here, including the superintendent's contract, which you just had a performance review last week, and there is a debate over language that would give the school board an opportunity to end his contract without cause. Your position on that, Shirley?
I was totally taken aback by that language that was brought. I did not see it, and I can't talk about how I'm going to vote because that's public records, you know, sunshine laws. I would like to take that language and compare it to the language that we had in Lori White's contract. I think there might have been some problems with fire without cause because there were people anxious to do that. I mean, there should be a reason why you're firing someone. I think I'd like to look at the language that's in Lori White's contract. But regardless, if there's those types of divisions, I think what we need to do, and I mean there's divisions, the union and the superintendent aren't talking, and there's 2 board members that are very unhappy. I think we need to sit down, and if we can have, you know, we've got restorative justice in our schools, why can't we have it with our board?
Right.
Sit down and resolve the problems that are out there.
2 minutes left here. I want to get to 1 or 2 other subjects. Go ahead, Karen.
The contract for all administrators in Sarasota County is annual, and there is a terminate without cause. Our teachers are on an annual contract. The opportunities to have bonus pay and raises is based on performance, and the collective evaluation of this superintendent was less than effective. There are issues in how that's translated. There are fiduciary issues students and how we are accountable to guaranteeing a contract for 4 years when we don't know what the funds will be. And last point, Alan, it leaves a newly elected board without the ideal opportunity for oversight and guidance.
Okay, one other issue, vouchers. Would you like to see that expanded to allow parents to put their kids into a charter school, or go slow?
28 years I've supported charter, I've supported public schools, and vouchers are in contrast to public schools. I am not an advocate. I do not support vouchers. However, Alan, saying no to vouchers is not enough, and the students that meet criteria for vouchers according to legislative rule are our special education students, our low-income students. Those students are not performing at grade level. Only 28% of our special education students could read.
Well, that information is inaccurate.
No, it is not. Look at the data. Look at your own data.
Please don't argue. You look at the law, and the law says, now the Hope scholarships, there is nothing. And you look at the corporate charters, the corporate scholarships, you know, that's up to 260% of poverty. The students never had to have attended a public school at all, let alone a failing public school. And that is increasing, and it's up to going to be $1 billion, increases 25% a year. Excuse me.
All right.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
It's a legislative platform.
Excuse me.
I tell you what, folks, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Our guest joined us right now for Final Thirds, but Shirley, we were talking about vouchers for charter schools. I wanted to wrap it up. You both get 30 seconds here.
Okay, well, you're mixing apples and oranges too.
I'm sorry.
Charters are one thing, vouchers are another. And I'm opposed to the private for-profit charter school management companies that are trying to come in and take over our schools. But I'm also opposed to the charters, the vouchers that are coming down. There seems to be another one every year. And there seems to be alternative facts on who gets vouchers. I know the law. I've been following them. I've been lobbying them. They are increasing 25% a year, the dollar amount this year, to make sure that they get enough businesses to contribute those dollars, because it'll be almost $250 million they have to increase them by this year. They have to get enough businesses to give them. They're giving the top 200 businesses, taxpayers, to this group so that they can go out and use their $10 million to lobby to get them.
And I'm not negating those pieces, and I do understand the Hope schools. I'm bringing to the table, let's, yes, agree, I am not for privatization. I do not support vouchers, but I am very much a support of the students that can go apply for a voucher, and those students need our help, and they are not performing at grade level and haven't for 5 years.
I want to give you both an opportunity to wrap this up. Shirley, your final thought.
Well, my final thought is that I am adamantly opposed to the special interest and self-serving politicians that are trying to weaken our public schools and expand these private school options that they have. And, you know, they're standing them up. There's no fiscal responsibility. There's no educational responsibility to some of these. When they take a voucher and they go to a private school, they lose those rights that they have, the rights of students with disabilities. They lose them when they go to a private school. They don't have those guarantees. I am adamantly opposed to the privatization of our public school, and I will advocate for public schools every day that I'm on the school board.
And I agree. I'm opposed to privatization, and I do not support vouchers. However, I am going to focus in with my professional education experience and be a fierce advocate for the safety of our schools, the mental health issues overwhelming our schools. I will continue to be an influence in bettering our schools. I've worked directly with our children, our families, our teachers, our administrators, and I will be a strong advocate to direct the funds back to the needs of our students and discontinue building a bureaucracy of adding $1.5 million of assistant principals.
we'll have to leave it there. Although we could go on forever. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers had to say about Friday's show on The Week in Washington. President Trump meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Helsinki summit had both sides of the aisle talking. The president received a lot of backlash for not condemning the Russians for interfering in the 2016 election. A new poll shows 85% of Republicans believe the Russia interference is a distraction, while 85% of Democrats believe it's a serious issue. So we went to Facebook for your thoughts, and Mary says 85% of Republicans are either in denial, have no clue what is going on, or have a clue but have no understanding of the implications and impact. William says not one person has claimed that they changed their vote and no actual proof exists. And Joni says, we are a nation divided again. We have seen such division before, like in the 1860s or 1920s. I hope we can resolve it again, reclaiming our former status as an example of humanity's best. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. We want to thank our guests, incumbent Shirley Brown and challenger Karen Rose.